and saying, "What are you looking so sad about, Jeff?"
I'm surprised. I mean, I'm really insulted. That's not right, what you just said.
What do you mean, what I just said?
I mean, I'm getting a drink of water. I'm late getting home, but you talking. I said something about the greatest heavyweight champ, man. I'm a hometown man, and you talking about Joe Louis, man. Joe Louis wouldn't be nothing for me. Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you would have stood a chance with me?
Well, Clay, one time during my career, I was on a Formula One tour.
I would have been a bum compared to you.
Well, you know,
What's happening, my people? It's Cat Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. That's right. You know what time it is. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian, bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it. Can't get enough of it. Salute to everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cat Sports, the Boxtorian. Today, boxing in the States, Wyoming, has the family today. This is the final episode of Boxing in the States. We started way last year. We have went through every state in the country and looked at a little brief history on every state, some other significant events that occurred in these states, like famous venues, famous fights that occurred in the states. And we looked at some of the great boxers from every state. Today is the finale, Wyoming. That's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to look at a little history in Wyoming as usual, some other significant events, like a couple historic fights and some gyms up there in Wyoming that's currently open. Boxing in the States, Wyoming. But first, for the highlights of boxing history, we are down to 122, junior featherweight, super bantamweight / junior featherweight, 122. Okay? We're going to look at the top 10 fighters of all time of the junior featherweight division for the boxing in the States today. Okay? It's Thursday, getting late in this big week of boxing history, getting close to the weekend. Beto Ramirez in action this weekend. So, big fights coming up as usual. We're getting close to the weekend. But boxing in the States today, Wyoming. But first, highlights of boxing history. Top 10 all-time junior featherweight, 122-pound division. Start the show off. So let's get started with that. Without further ado, the highlights of boxing history. What we're doing is we have started at heavyweight. We're going through every division for the first half hour of the show and look at the top 10 greatest in every division. Today we are down to super bantamweight, and when we're going all the way from heavyweight to minimum weight 105, and then we're going to go back to heavyweight. We're going to look at the top 10 active fighters in every division. So now let's look at the 10 greatest super bantamweight / junior featherweight boxers in history. Okay, and that's Bazooka Gomez, Wilfredo on the right. Of course, he's going to be the top junior featherweight. But let's go. Okay, the 10 greatest super bantamweight boxers in history. Now, at the time of this division's creation in the 70s, people wondered what was the need for a pit stop between bantam and featherweight. A mere 8-pound spread, bantamweight 118, featherweight 126. What was it? Only 8 pounds. What was the need for a division in between those two? Okay. Junior featherweight / super bantamweight seemed unnecessary. 4 pounds away from the more glamour weight classes of 118 and 126. But 50 years later, it is now an accepted division in the sport. The great fighters in this weight class are numerous, and the battles they wage are unforgettable. Some great fighters who fought at 122 are not even on this list. You can't get them all, right? But some of them didn't stay at 122 for very long. Others made their careers at 122, and some are in the middle. It's a bit of a tricky class to rate, constantly faced with the issue of what's more important, greatness or body of work. And there's a little bit of both on this list today. So let's get into it. Enjoy it, okay? All right, number one. We're gonna go from 1 to 10 today. Number one, 122-pounder of all time, Wilfredo Bazooka Gomez. Wilfredo Bazooka Gomez. Now, when it comes to obvious choices for number one fighters in divisions, there aren't many obvious ones. But as we worked our way down in weight through this series, so far there have only been 3 sure enough number ones, okay? There was Evander Holyfield at cruiserweight, there was Sugar Ray Robinson at welterweight, and Willie Pep at featherweight. Wilfredo Gomez may be the most obvious choice of them all. There's simply no counter argument. At age 20, he was world champion after knocking out Dong Kyun Young, a fighter with 2 losses in 58 fights who had never been stopped. And Bazooka Gomez was one of his first 32 fights out the gate, 31 by knockout, okay? 31 by knockout. And after 5 defenses when he first became champion, Gomez faced preeminent bantamweight champion Carlos Zarate. And by the way, Gomez's career went from 1974 to 1990, 16 years. Now, the Hall of Fame puncher Carlos Durante was 52-0 when he faced Wilfredo Gomez. Now, Gomez romped to a fifth-round knockout in a hallmark victory. The defenses kept piling up, usually against quality contenders. In 1981, Gomez had his first loss, coming up short in a trial for Salvador Sanchez's featherweight belt. He had moved up to 126, but he did move back down. He went back to 122 and continued his reign of destruction, defeating Kid Meza and Lupe Pintor in a grand slugfest for the ages, him and Pintor. He went on to win titles at 126 and 130, but 122 is where he built his legend. He had 17 title defenses at 122, won them all by knockout. 17 title defenses, 17 knockouts, okay? It doesn't get any more dominant than that. Wilfredo Bazooka Gomez, the king of 122. Okay, number 2. Marco Antonio Barrera, number 2 at 122. Mike Rim, salute Mike. Looking at super bantamweight / junior featherweight today, 122. Number 1 was Wilfredo Bazooka Gomez. Okay, 32-0 out the gate, 31 by knockout of his first 32 fights. Won all 32 of them, 31 by knockout, and he had 17 title defenses. Won them all 17 of them by knockout. Number 2, Marco Antonio Barrera. Okay, now teenage sensation at 115, junior bantamweight. A growing Barrera settled into 122 and forced a memorable run of thrilling fights and sensational victories. He knocked out hard-hitting ex-champ Eddie Cook before snaring the WBO belt from Daniel Jimenez. After dusting off Frankie Toledo and Mayu Diaz in quick order, he decisioned ultra tough Agapito Sanchez. Then Barrera engaged in one of the classics of that era in boxing, as he and Kennedy McKinney thrilled the Inglewood Forum audience. Barrera dominated. He dramatically ended the fight with a 12th round TKO, but after 2 more defenses and building a record of 43-0, Barrera puzzlingly lost 2 fights to Junior Jones, 2 back-to-back fights to Junior Jones. Now, Barrera would eventually reclaim his title and rebuild his reputation. In his 3rd defense, Marco Antonio engaged in a unification fight with fellow Mexican standout Eric Morales. It was another classic war, and to many people's disgust, the split decision went to Morales. Many in the crowd remained steadfast that despite the closeness of the fight, Barrera clearly deserved the win. After 3 more fights at 122, he moved up and soon added Nassim Hamed and Morales' names to his resume. Yeah, him and Morales' rematch was at 126. Okay. And speaking of Eric Morales, number 3 at 122 all time is Eric Morales. Donnie Williams. What's up, Donnie Williams? How are you today? Good to see you. Donnie. Mike Mazik. What's up, Mike? Salute. Mike Mazik in the building. Okay. Looking at the 122-pound division today. All right. Appreciate you, Donnie. Mike Mazik and Mike Grimm and the boss, Miss Cass. Okay, number 3, Eric Morales. Now, Morales competed from 1993 to 2012. Barrera was 1989 to 2011. Okay. Morales, 1993 to 2012. By the time he left 122 pounds in 2000, Morales was 36-0 and considered one of the best fighters in the world. He was a big junior featherweight, 122. Morales was a special fighter at this weight. Despite a wispy frame, he was one of the more dogged warriors in the history of the prize ring. At age 19, he defeated ex-champ Hector Acero Sanchez, setting up a title against longtime king Daniel Zaragoza. It wasn't easy, but the young Morales stopped Zaragoza in 11 entertaining rounds to become WBC champion. After 7 defenses, all by knockout, including a wipeout of 2-time Barrera conqueror Junior Jones, Morales went the distance in a unanimous win over gutsy Wayne McCullough. Then came his classic war with Barrera, and whoever you thought won the fight, there was no disputing Morales' grit or his standing as one of the more exciting fighters of his era. Eric Morales, okay? Number 4 at 122 all time is Daniel Zaragoza. That's Daniel on the right. Daniel Zaragoza, okay? After a short run as a bantamweight 118 title holder, where he became a mainstay at the top for the next dozen years, right? Yeah, he moved up to 122 and he became a mainstay at the top of the division for a dozen years, 12 years. Now, after a loss to Hall of Famer Jeff Finnett, Zaragoza found his stride. He put together some nice wins, setting up a shot at the vacant WBC title against comebacking Carlos Zarate. The fight was won by Zaragoza by 10th round TKO. After a draw with tough Korean Sang-Hoon Lee, Zaragoza engaged in a thrilling trilogy with Paul Banks. Zaragoza would get the last word, winning the rubber match in 1991. Along the way, he defeated tough competition in Valerio Nadi, Franklin Duarte, Chan Young Park, and Kiyoshi Tanaka. Zaragoza lost the belt to unexceptional Barry Jacob. Then had a draw and lost by TKO on cuts to Tracy Harris Patterson in 1993, Floyd Patterson's son. In 1995, Zaragoza had a draw with Hector Acero Sanchez. But in the rematch later that year, he beat Sanchez to reclaim the WBC title. Now pushing 40, Zaragoza experienced a career renaissance. He went to Japan for 2 defenses, knocking out tough Joichiro Tatsuyoshi and Tsuyoshi Harada. Then came a big win against undefeated Wayne McCullough. Zaragoza was at his cagey best in that fight, outthinking and outfighting the young Irishman. After beating Tatsuyoshi again in Japan, Zaragoza was gallant in passing the torch to Eric Morales. Okay? Donnie says, I used to think Floyd wearing Mexican trunks was to undermine, but he was paying respect. Yeah, that's right, Donnie. Yeah, that's what he was doing. Good point, Donnie. Okay. Oh. Number 5, the late, great Israel Vasquez. It's Israel on the left. And Israel competed from 1995 to 2010. a 15-year career for Israel. Now, he's the fourth Mexican in the top 5 on this list, and he went by the nickname El Magnifico, or Magnificent in English, and he was one of the more exciting fighters in his generation. A 1997 first-round knockout in his formative years over future 122-pound standout Oscar Larios understated his prowess, but it would be a bit before Vasquez found his footing. A long winning streak would put him in line to take on Larios again in 2002. The Larios would score a 12th-round TKO, and Vasquez was left searching for answers. He would find them, knocking out Jose Luis Valbuena for the vacant IBF title. So Vasquez, after a few defenses, decided to once again fight Larios for his WBC title. This time, Israel evened the score with a big third-round TKO. Vasquez would use that momentum to stop Johnny Gonzalez, and that was another hallmark win in 2006. Then came his epic 3-fight series against Rafael Marquez, younger brother of Juan Manuel. That was epic, those 3 fights. Now, Vasquez lost the first fight, unable to continue after getting his nose smashed to bits. But his heroism was off the charts by twice turning the tables on Marquez in a pair of triumphant wins that cemented his legacy, but also sapped him on his vitality. It didn't matter. With 2 wins each over Larios and Marquez, including a win over Johnny Gonzalez, Israel did plenty. He had just passed away. I think it was at the end of last year. Yeah, Israel, the late great Israel Vasquez. Oh my goodness! Now I messed my display up. Okay, next is Wilfredo Vasquez. Bear with me. This tab is getting on my nerves. I am all the way at the top. Excuse me for a moment. Okay, Israel Vasquez was last. Let me find Israel again. Gaza. It's Gaza. Yeah, I'm all out of order. But next is Wilfredo Vasquez. Morales. Next is Wilfredo Vasquez. Okay. Wilfredo Vasquez. The triple division champion did his best work at 122, where he built an impressive resume. After an up and down title run at 118, Vasquez moved up, and it didn't go well in the beginning, as he suffered a first-round knockout to Israel Contreras. But he found his mojo, and after rebuilding a bit, he got the best of former conqueror Raul Perez, stopping the 49-2-2 WBA champion in 3 rounds. He would hold the title from 1992 to 1995. He twice beat Terry Jacob by knockout, and he traveled around the globe, beating the best of Europe and Asia. His best win came in his final defense, beating Hall of Famer Orlando Canizales, a long-reigning champion who hadn't lost in a decade before Wilfredo beat him. Number 7 is Buyani. Oh, yeah, I'm right on time. Yeah, that was Wilfredo. Next is Buyani Bangu. There's Buyani Bangu. Okay. Buyani Bangu. Now, Bungu was considered a good fighter, but it was a shock when he lifted the title from Kennedy McKinney, a fighter who had begun appearing on pound-for-pound lists. Now, proving it was no fluke, Bungu made 13 defenses before leaving the division to campaign at featherweight. He vacated, never lost it in the ring. He was never dethroned. He had never lost his title. He vacated. Among his defenses at 122 were wins over ex-champ Jesus Salud, a rematch win over McKinney, and a high-profile win over Danny Ramiro. The South African fighter was a classy practitioner. And speaking of Kennedy McKinney, there he is. Kennedy McKinney is number 8 at super bantamweight / junior featherweight. And Define Arnie1 in the building. What's up, Define Arnie1? Good to see you today. And Al Booger, Cat Sports, member of Cast and Friends. Salute, Al Booger. Yeah, I'm gonna need your address at a few too, Al Booger, so you can get your Cast Sports hat. Yeah, all members will be receiving hats. But yeah, I'll only get with you, Al Booger. But salute. You find only one in Al Booger. Okay. Kennedy McKinney, number 8. Competed from 1989 to 2003, 14 years. The 1988 Olympic gold medalist beat a few toughies like Max Gomez and Jerome Coffey before snagging the USBA title from ex-champ Paul Bank by a dominating 6th-round TKO. And the next fight set up McKinney for a shot at Ultra Classy welcome Nicita's IBF championship. Nicita was 32-0, but he could not stand up to McKinney, particularly his beautiful right cross, as McKinney stopped him in 11 rounds. McKinney defended his belt against 26-0 Richard Duran, Rudy Zavala, tough Rudy Zavala, and Jesus Salud. After a knockout defense of Jose Rincon, McKinney repeated his win over the still tough Nicita, this time by decision. McKinney then dropped his belt to Vyani Bungu. Then he stopped tough John Lowy before losing a 12th round TKO to Marco Antonio Barrera. Now, it might seem odd to give McKinney credit for a loss, but if you have qualms with it, go back and look at the fight. It was a great fight, McKinney and Barrera. Now, McKinney would lose a rematch to Bungu, but in his last shining moment, he won a slugfest over Junior Jones, who was fresh off 2 wins over Marco Antonio Barrera. Number 9 is Toshiaki Nishiyaka. For some reason, I went backwards. There's Toshiaki. There's him on the right. Facing us, Toshiaki Nishiyaka, 1994. I forgot when he finished, but he started in 1994. Toshiaki Nishiyaka. Now, Nishiyaka was a fixture on at the top of 122 for a long time. Okay, he first challenged it for a title at 118 in 2000. He came close, but he couldn't unseat longtime bantamweight title holder Virafal Tharprom. In 2008, he won the WBC belt over 46-2-1 to Arungpasal. 2 fights later, he went to Mexico to face longtime standout Johnny Gonzalez, rising from the mat to finish Gonzalez in 3 rounds. Fighting quality opposition, he made 5 dominant defenses, right? The last one was against Rafael Marquez himself. The slashing southpaw was an exciting presence in the junior featherweight division. Toshiaki Nishiyaka. And that number 10 was Manny Pacquiao. Yeah, Manny went through so many divisions. You can almost put him in all of them, from like flyweight to junior middleweight. But Manny's number 10 at junior featherweight. Okay, we're going to get to boxing in the States, Wyoming. We found some good stuff on Wyoming, too. Manny Pacquiao, 1995 to 2021 / the present. Because Manny got a fight coming up, right? So he originally retired in 2021 and went in the Hall of Fame. Now he's back. But what do? Do they take him out of the Hall of Fame? That's interesting because, active fighters are not supposed to be in the Hall of Fame. And once you retire, you got to wait, I think it's 3 years now before you can get in. And Manny waited his amount of time and went in. Now he's back fighting. Wow, that's crazy. But anyway, Manny started at 112, okay? And he suffers in the rankings, but 122 might be where he had his best work. He never lost a fight at 122, right? And none of his fights lasted the distance at 122. He knocked out Ramonte Jamil in his 122-pound debut. Then he dusted off unbeaten Song Kong K in 1 round a few fights later. He then endured a tough challenge from unbeaten Nadal Hussein before stopping him in the 10th round. 2 knockouts later, Manny upset IBF champion Ledlow Ledwaba, who was 33 wins and 1 loss. And he had 6 title fight defenses. Okay? But Manny stopped him. In his first defense, Manny struggled against tough and dirty Agapito Sanchez in the 6th round technical draw. Now, former bantamweight title holder Jorge Julio, 44-3, was a resolute and fine campaigner who had never been stopped until he met Manny. And Manny dispatched him in 2 rounds. 2 more knockout defenses later, Pacquiao moved up to featherweight, but never lost at 122, where we're talking about today, and never went the distance at 122. So out of all his 8 classes, 122 might have been where Manny did his best work. Okay, 122. Yeah. Okay, so now we will go to this is the final boxing in the States. Wyoming. We had went through the entire alphabet from last year. Looked at every state. And Define Arnie gave me a good idea yesterday. It was after the show. He said, look at some of the top fighters go through the countries in alphabetical order, listing some of the top fighters, and I'm gonna get it together. But it was a great idea, Define Arnie. I appreciate you. So that will probably start next Thursday. It's a work in progress, okay, but based on the idea that I got from Define Arnie, so that's gonna start another new series start next Thursday. More on that when we get to next Thursday. But this is the final boxing in the state, Wyoming. I learned a few things about these states. I hope everybody else did. All of y'all been with me since we started. Remember I told y'all last year, we're going on into 2025 with this series. And here we are in the summertime. I didn't know it was going to take that long. Wow. We're going to start a new one next week. Okay. And I forgot there was something that I was getting ready to say, but I forgot what it was. Okay. The boxing in the States, Wyoming. Okay, bear with me for one moment. I need some light. I've written a little bit up. Okay, let's go. Yeah. I have to do a little right because I don't want to have too many stuff going on and override the Wi-Fi. So, boxing in the States, Wyoming, today. Oh, yeah, I know what I was getting ready to do. Here we go. Put my beautiful map back up there. I'm gonna miss that map. Y'all gonna miss that picture? I've been looking at that for a year. I thought that was a fire thumbnail. I'm gonna miss it. Man. You go back to A and start over again? No. Start the boxing in the States all over for another year. Go back to, what was it, Arizona or Alabama? I think it was Alabama is the first. No, Atlanta. I think it's Atlanta was first. Yeah. No, that's another state. Alabama was first. Yeah. I remember because they ran the Holyfield with somebody. Thomas Hill in the building. What's up, T Hill? How are you today? Yeah. That's another one too, T Hill. Legendary fights in each state. Yeah. But salute Thomas Hill. All these great minds give me all these ideas. And I'm writing them down. Mm-hmm. Oh, you missed it yesterday, T Hill. You must have left me and you found Arnie had a fire cook on the panel yesterday. Yeah. Man. Get a chance to go back and look at that yesterday, T Hill. Yeah. You couldn't have been. You must have had something to do because you would have definitely been up there. Because we was cooking with hot grease yesterday. Me and Define Arnie was. Wow. Really enjoyed that. But boxing in Wyoming has a history marked by popularity, prohibition, and a recent resurgence as a regulated sport. Now, while once a popular form of entertainment, particularly in the Wild West era, yeah, we're back around the we're going to talk about Wyatt Earp and boxing today. Yeah, boxing in Wyoming was popular back in the Wild West years, around the 1890s, like around the time Matt Dillon and Festus and all them was around. Then the Cartwrights, yeah, boxing was popular in Wyoming back then. Yeah, boxing was banned in Wyoming over a century ago, but in recent years, Wyoming has become the first state to officially sanction and regulate bare knuckle boxing, with the first event taking place in Cheyenne, Wyoming in 2018. Now, the early popularity and the ban. In the early days of Wyoming statehood, boxing was a popular form of entertainment, drawing large crowds to boxing events. And one account suggests that boxing was banned in Wyoming over 100 years ago, according to Sheridan Media. Now, despite the ban, boxing continued to be a part of Wyoming's culture, with some accounts highlighting the importance of boxing for cowboys and ranchers in the late 1800s. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Little Joe could box his ass off, man. Y'all ever seen Little Joe fight Cartwright? Yeah. Little Joe could go. He could fight. The bare knuckle street fighting type. Mm-hmm. Horse was just big. Everybody was scared of him. But the Cheyenne Kid, Muggsy Scowell, was a notable figure in Wyoming boxing. We're going to talk about him in the boxing in the States. He became featherweight champion in the West before he was 20 years old. Yep, Muggsy Scowell. Yeah, we're going to have a nice little piece on him when we get to the boxing in the States segment. Muggsy Scowell. Now, the recent reemergence of boxing. Wyoming became the first state to legalize and regulate bare knuckles boxing in the modern era. Yeah, Wyoming. The state's commission reviewed research indicating that bare knuckle boxing could be safer than other combat sports, right? Particularly concerning concussions. Wow. Now, the first state-sanctioned bare knuckle boxing event took place in Cheyenne, Wyoming in June of 2018. The event included 10 fights featuring fighters such as Estevan Payan, Pico Rodriguez, Bobby Gunn, and Johnny Bedford. The state's commission spent approximately a year developing the rules for the newly regulated sport. Yeah, they really did a good deep job looking at it before they legalized bare knuckles up there. And in the modern era, it's other places everywhere now, but Wyoming was the first state in the modern era to legalize bare knuckles boxing. Yeah, I didn't know that before like Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Now, the legalization and regulation of bare knuckles boxing in Wyoming is viewed as a way to promote economic diversity and celebrate the state's unique Western identity. Yup. Okay. What was both of you a highlight of the conversation? We talked a lot about Zerto and Apataya. Up in that range. Zerto, Apataya, Benavidez, Bivol, and Beterbiev. Obviously, that was the highlight of it, wasn't it? You find Arnie? Around the cruiserweight and light heavyweight, that situation. With Bivol, Beterbiev, Benavidez, and we talked about Apataya and Zerto. A little bit of the other champion at cruiserweight mixed in. What's his name? Badu Jack mixed in. But yeah, that was the highlight of it. Wouldn't you say, you find Arnie? Light heavyweight and cruiserweight. Yeah. All those guys mixing it up. Yeah, T Hill. That was the highlight of it. We spent a lot of time on that portion of it. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I would say. Mm-hmm. That was the highlight of it. Yeah, because we talked about the need for Apataya and Zerto to get in there because Define Arnie informed me that Apataya was talking about a move to heavyweight. But we both agreed that he needs to get in there with Zerto before he goes anywhere. Settle that. Or we wouldn't be mad if one of them fought Badu Jack first because he does have a belt in that division, right? But neither of them can go anywhere. They got to fight each other. Everybody wants that. Yeah. Yeah. That's it, T Hill. Yeah. That's true. That's the fight. Zerto and Apataya when you get up around that division. And Benavidez has a lot of options. But I think he's focusing on the winner of Bivol and Beterbiev. Yeah. And we both agreed that it was only fair to have that trilogy. A lot of people were saying Bivol should move on to Benavidez, but no. Beterbiev beat him, became undisputed, and he gave Bivol a rematch. So it was only fair for Bivol to finish that thing off, do the trilogy. Don't just leave it at 1-1 and run off. No. So yeah, I think that was the right thing to do. Do the trilogy, and Benavidez deserves the winner. Yeah, he deserves the winner. Okay. But next for Wyoming, we're gonna talk about that ban. It was like 120 years ago. The ban in Wyoming. Yeah. Just about to get my tablet working. But how's everybody? It's Thursday. Right back at the weekend. Of course, we got some big fights coming up this weekend. But yeah, we're gonna get some link time and discuss this. Here for sure today. Let me get the link a little earlier today because Wyoming is not a long one, But I found some pretty good stuff about Wyoming. But yeah, we did talk about a lot of stuff. It was good. And Al Booger was dropping some good stuff in the chat too. Him and Ant was in there. Mm-hmm. Some good information in there, as always. Okay. Okay, let's look at this ban that happened over 100 years ago in Wyoming. That's I think it's John Sharkey and Bob Fitzsimmons. That was a big fight up there that happened just before they banned boxing up there. Drunk Irishman in the building. What's up, the Drunk Irishman? How are you today? Good to see you again. Oh man, I spilled some cooler on my paper now. I done stained my writing up. Oh, excuse my language. Okay, but I can still see it pretty good. Okay, now the sport of boxing has been around for centuries. The early carvings in Sumerian date back to the 3rd and 2nd millennia BC. It shows men boxing. And then in 688 BC, boxing was established as an Olympic sport, right? Now later, it evolved into 16th to 18th century prize fights. They were very popular in England and later in the United States. Now nearly all fights today are run under the Marquis of Queensberry rules, which were drafted in London in 1865, and it was named because the 9th Marquis of Queensberry publicly endorsed the code. And these rules were also the first to mandate the use of boxing gloves. Now, when Wyoming was a very young state, boxing was one of the entertainments that drew large crowds of people, and it was a part of many events in the Wild West. Wyatt Earp, famous lawman, refereed several fights, and he was the referee in a fight between Bob Fitzsimmons, who was at the time heavyweight champion, and Tom Sharkey in San Francisco. Now, not everyone was thrilled with his decision on the fight. Yeah, that's Tom Sharkey and Bob Fitzsimmons right there. Not everyone was thrilled with Wyatt Earp's decision on the fight. Okay, the Rawlins Republican newspaper, December 4th, 1896, had this to say about the fight. Bob Fitzsimmons was tonight robbed of a victory, which he had clearly earned by punching Tom Sharkey into insensibility. Fitzsimmons finished without a mark on his body and did not receive a single fair punch from Tom Sharkey in the entire fight. Now, as Sharkey rolled over on his back, Wyatt Earp, the referee, announced that Fitzsimmons had struck him with a foul with his knee and that the decision should go to Sharkey. The decision was received with boos and jeers, and Earp disappeared just in time to avoid rough handling. Fitzsimmons put up a clean, hard fight, and though he was fouled repeatedly and wrestled all over the ring, he never complained. And the fight ended, Wyatt Earp said Fitzsimmons was the one that fouled. Now, while boxing was popular in the early days of Wyoming, not everyone was in favor of it or of the promoters that made money off the matches. Yeah, it was crooked, way back then. In June of 1911, that led to this decree by Governor Carey, right? This was in the Sheraton Post newspaper in 1911, June 20th, 1911. No prize fighting. He said, if pugilists and professional prize ring promoters carry out their determination of setting up in business in Wyoming, they will have to knock out Governor Carey first. The governor is as much determined to prevent prize fighting as they are to have it. Last winter, he vetoed a bill passed by the legislature legalizing prize fighting, and his action was a solar plexus blow to the fraternity, which had counted on breaking down all legal barriers and getting into Wyoming, as they had done in Nevada. Now, evidently, while the pugilists took the count in this match with the governor, they did not leave off trying for a return engagement. Of late, they had been holding boxing matches in different counties in disregard of the law. Now the governor comes back with another stiff uppercut in the form of an order to law officers to make wholesale arrests and prosecutions if necessary to stop prize fighting. Governor Carey will win in the end, and by so doing, will perform a valuable service, not only for Wyoming, but for the country at large, which needs all the help of his kind it can get in completely wiping out prize fighting. Perhaps even Nevada will fall in the line, inspired by Wyoming's chief executive. Wyoming is one of the new, potentially great Western states that is not inviting the lawless elements as means of promoting its development, and it will, in the years, acknowledge its debt to Governor Curry for what he has done. Okay? And again, from the Sheraton Post in 1911. When Governor Curry called attention to the state laws forbidding prize fights, boxing matches, or whatever name such entertainments traveled under, and asked the peace officers throughout the state to see that the laws were obeyed, his action was followed by general acquiescence and a ready and willing obedience. A number of such contests, then advertised, were declared off, and the state at large settled down to behave itself as it should. Lately, however, a restlessness has become evident in Cheyenne, Wyoming, among the sports, and an attempt was made to pull off a fight in a military reservation at Fort Russell between a soldier and a boxer from Denver. Now, all arrangements had been completed, and the fans were impatiently awaiting the day and hour for the fight, when Colonel Williams, in command at the fort, put his foot down on the whole proceedings, and there is nothing doing. The colonel says that while it may be possible to hold such entertainments on a military reservation in spite of the existence of state law against it, he would not countenance anything against the laws of the state and would not only stand with the governor in the matter, but would use all the power at his command to enforce the laws of the state wherein the reservation is located. And the action of Colonel Williams is opportune because the fight fans of Sheridan have had in contemplation some such move as was attempted at Fort Russell. If the officers at Fort McKenzie have the situation to deal with, they will doubtless take the same stand. Prize fighting, or synonym boxing, is off the boards in Wyoming. But, of course, boxing had its supporters as well. Cheyenne State Leader, March 29, 1912. Boxing is not as dangerous as football. More men are killed in football, baseball, or cycle fields than in boxing. Okay? Crush the Legend in the building. What's up, Crush? Yeah, we just talking about a little history of boxing in Wyoming. Talking about around the time when they banned it, but they had some people. The governor made laws banning boxing, but they were still trying to have it. And here's some people that were for boxing. They were saying football and baseball is more dangerous than boxing. I don't know how baseball is, but anyway, it's funny how some people become horrified when a boxer is hurt, or how indifferent they are when men are killed on the football field, or when they are killed by downs on the automobile racetracks and in airships, etc. In France, it has been recorded the past year or two that the deaths from auto accidents and flights in the air have been enormous, running up into the hundreds. But the moment the first accident happened in a boxing match, which is one death in the sport since introduction into the country, there's at once a howl about the roughness of it. However, the jury that investigated the affair found that the man died. Talk about the one man that died in the fight. They said the man died not from the effects of a boxing match, but from the heart trouble that had been brought on by overexertion. It is hard sometimes to guard against men in that condition, even though they are examined by doctors. Compared to other sports, boxing is mild and not half as dangerous. Okay? Now, boxing was a popular entertainment and a way to exercise on many of the frontier army posts. And a boxing instructor held that boxers made good soldiers during World War I. In an article in the Cheyenne, Wyoming State Leader newspaper, November 8, 1918, Benny Leonard, holder of world's lightweight title and U.S. Army boxing instructor, talked about how boxers can become good at learning to use a bayonet, which was a favorite weapon in World War I. right? Now, Benny Leonard said, I have taught boxing. Benny Leonard was a lightweight champion, but he put his career on hold to fight in World War I. Now, he wrote an article in his paper said, I have taught boxing to 40,000 soldiers in training at Camp Upton. Most of them men who never saw a boxing glove, let alone putting one on. They learned how to jab with the left, counter with the right, step out of a clinch, hit and get away, and some other tricks of the Marquis of Queensberry rules. It didn't take long to get them acquainted with these tricks. In just 11 months, there were 40,000 more boys who could use their fists as a result of having taken military training. It is generally admitted that the man who knows a few boxing tricks becomes a great bayonet fighter and a great soldier. Using the bayonet then comes naturally to the fighting man. A lot of my pupils are giving good accounts of themselves in trotting the Huns back to Berlin. I refer to the 77th Division, the first out from Camp Upton. Its record in France speaks for itself. Now, while a popular sport at one time, over 100 years ago this month, it was banned in Wyoming. Okay? Now, this is the biggest, we're going to talk about the biggest boxing match in Wyoming history now. The biggest boxing match in Wyoming history. Okay? Let me check the track. Yeah, Chris the Legend is in the building. 6:30 a.m. Monday through Friday. Coffee and Donuts segment. Always give out fire content. And another fire went out there that happened this very morning. So I think all of us in here, all of us in here is subscribed to Crush the Legend. But anybody out there listening, any warriors, anybody? Crush the Legend. Versatile guy. And then STN, the Sports Talk. Salute to the Sports Talk Network. Great organization of knowledgeable content creators. Not just sports. All kinds of stuff. But yeah, this is the Salute Crush. This is the biggest fight in Wyoming history. Okay. Okay. Boxing band in Wyoming, we just did that. Kids go well. Okay, I gotta put this in all over again. Bear with me for one moment, please. Memento. I don't know what happened to it, but we're gonna get it together. How's everybody? This is Thursday. We right back up on the weekend. Okay, let me try this. Here we're gonna get some good link time at the end, as usual. Biggest boxing match in Wyoming. Oh boy, I put the history of boxing in boxing. History of boxing in Wyoming. Here we go. There we go, right there. Okay. Okay, this is the biggest. This is a little short thing. Biggest boxing. And boxers from Wyoming, I only got two. But I got a nice little article on Kids Go In. Big time boxer from Wyoming. Okay, July 4th, 1869. The biggest fight in Wyoming history. Okay? In Wyoming's early days, boxing was the most popular spectator sport. The biggest fight ever to take place in the Cowboy State became famous, not because of the fight, but due to the legendary alliance it helped create. On July 4th, 1869, Wyatt Earp arrived at the Cheyenne, Wyoming depot to take bets on a fight pitting traveling professional fighter Mike Donovan against upstart John Shaughnessy. The Wyatt Earp was no stranger to Cheyenne. For the past year, he and his brother Virgil Earp had followed the railroad west, setting up temporary gambling parlors and boxing books at each outpost along the way. Now, the fight was part of Cheyenne's third Independence Day celebration and drew crowds from across the area. Sadly, the main event wasn't much of a fight. The experienced Donovan pummeled Shaughnessy. Now, although he was beaten, Shaughnessy's toughness during the fight impressed Earp, and the two men became friends. It's also likely that Earp employed Shaughnessy for more fights that summer. Now, 8 years later, Shaughnessy and Earp crossed paths again in Texas, where Shaughnessy introduced Earp to dentist, gambler, and gunslinger named John Doc Holliday, right? This boxer, Shaughnessy, was the one that introduced those two. In 1876, while Earp was forging his reputation as a lawmaker in Kansas, Holliday lived in Cheyenne, Wyoming, where he spent several months working as a card dealer at the fabled Bella Union Variety Gold Room. That was his gambling house up there. Earp and Holliday would go on to become one of the most storied duos in American history. Chances are they would have never met if it wasn't for a fight in Wyoming nearly 147 years ago. Yep. Earp became friends with one of the fighters, and that fighter introduced him to Doc Holliday. And that's how Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp met. Okay? Now we're going to look at some gems in amateur boxing up in Wyoming. This is the final boxing in the States today. We've come all the way from, looked at every state in the country. Yep. Every one of them. I'm going to miss it. Y'all going to miss boxing in the States? But we got another good series coming up. Don't worry about it. It's not over. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm looking for right there. Okay. Yeah, okay, let's get into this. It says, I just saw it. Come on, man. Okay, bear with me for one moment, please. Yeah, boxing is still going the rounds in Wyoming, despite the rise of MMA. And Wyoming is called the Cowboy State. Wow. Wasn't there something? This boxer introduced Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp. Oh yeah, this one keeps doing that. I'm gonna have to go to Old Faithful on this one. Okay. It's still early in the show. It's just 3 o'clock. Don't panic. I'll have that going in one moment. Then we're gonna talk about some boxers from Wyoming. And we're gonna talk about some heavyweight fighters today too. From the golden era. We always talk about Ali, Frazier, and Foreman. We're going to talk about some of those other fighters like Norton and Holmes and Barbic, not named Ali or Foreman or Frazier. Here it is right here. Kill my old bad eyes. The boxing is still going the rounds in Wyoming, despite the rise of MMA. Okay, make this short and sweet. Okay. Now, at a gym at the north side of Wyoming's Oil City, a boxing coach expresses the ways boxing teaches important lessons about society for young people struggling in his community. You know, he says, it molds individuals into better people by enhancing their character, mindset, and abilities to positively impact themselves and society. This was wrote by Clayton Jensen. Okay. Jensen is a former boxer at the Casper Boxing Club, and he now serves as the facility's head coach. Now, he still sees the sport as relevant, even as boxing's popularity has been challenged by mixed martial arts, wrestling, and other individual sports and activities. Okay? Now get my chat back up. Gotta be able to see the chat. Okay? Now in Casper, Cheyenne, and Laramie, Wyoming, Jackson and other Wyoming towns, in Casper, Cheyenne, Laramie, Jackson, and other Wyoming towns, gyms that offer boxing are still getting interest from amateurs who want to put on the gloves. But while boxers still can dance around the ring and hit the speed bags, the sport is not what it used to be, with names like Jack Dempsey, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, Sugar Ray Leonard, Mike Tyson, and Joe Louis ruled. Okay. I was trying to get the chat back up. You know, Mike Tyson was from a different area of boxing. And that's what they hang on to when they're talking about boxing. It's that area of boxing that was amazing to see. Now, then they had this female coach. Her name is Janelle Mellish. Okay. She's a coach at the Arena Training Institute gym in Cheyenne and Laramie, Wyoming. She said there are no athletes in the boxing world today that have the name recognition or influence like those of the past, like Tyson, Leonard, Ali, Frazier. Mellish said that both of her facilities feature Olympic USA boxing and attract a lot of women and men who are interested in the fitness of the sport. There are also several members of the gyms who are part of a Parkinson's recovery program called Rock Steady. They use non-contact boxing exercises and training to regain movements and coordination threatened by the disease. And the Cheyenne gym also offers jiu-jitsu. Okay, that's trying to work on this chat at this same time. But they also offer jiu-jitsu. Now, 2 teens in her gym are seriously pursuing a USA boxing program, and she has a couple of adults also interested in competition. She has been talking to a promoter about putting on fights in Cheyenne. He said, we're kind of excited to rally that and to make boxing a sport that appeals again to the masses. It's the art form, really, and it's a great self-defense on your feet. It takes a lot of strength mentally. And so to bring it back to Wyoming with a culture that we are mentally tough, co-ed, and co-ed would be great. Okay? Then they also have a gym in Jackson, Wyoming. Let me get this chat going. I'm just trying to go back and forth. Come on. Try to get the chat back up. There we go. Oh, I got a subscriber today. Wow. There we go. Anybody come in? Okay, here we go. Yeah. The Jackson gym, Jackson, Wyoming. In Jackson, Wyoming, David Cox, co-owner of Jackson Hole MMA, said when his gym opened in 2016, he offered boxing, jiu-jitsu, and wrestling classes. The boxing interest initially took off, but retention of those numbers became an issue. Now the gym offers kickboxing, and that seems to do much better in the market. He said he still provides some private boxing classes for some students, and boxing remains fundamental to kickboxing. Cox believes currently the sport suffers from integrity and the lack of role models at the top to inspire young boxers. He said he likes to watch historic fights, and he calls the welterweight championship fight between Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran in June 20th, 1980. Leonard Duran won, possibly the best fight of all time. Cox points out during the fight night between Tyson and Jake Paul, the welterweight championship was just an undercard fight. Cox sees that as an example of the state of boxing. Yeah. How Roberto Duran and Sugar Ray Leonard welterweight fight, one of the biggest fights of all time, and then they got this clown show between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, and the real welterweight fight was on the undercard. So that's the state of boxing right now. That is a very good point. You got a clown show between Jake Paul fighting a damn 58-year-old man, and the real boxing fight is on the undercard, right? That's crazy. But that's the state of that boxing has fell to. Mm-hmm. It's terrible. That's the state of our sport, though. Think about that. Jake Paul fighting a 58-year-old man. Then you got a real, live, legitimate fight between two real boxers on the undercard of that shit. So, wow. Sad state. Now, Cox was a wrestler in college. He said that he first turned to learning boxing before his other training to try his abilities in the MMA ring. He believes boxing offers a lot for participants, such as cardio and self-defense. Just having the confidence to defend yourself if you need to typically allows you to make better decisions, aside from all the health benefits and the initial benefit you feel after a hard workout. Cox's gym offers youth and adult programs for kickboxing. The numbers are down on the youth side when compared with jiu-jitsu. He estimates 35 youth members across the kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, and wrestling classes, while they have 45 to 55 adults in those programs. Now in Casper, Jensen has about 50 boxers in his program that include 20 in a women's class, 18 men and women in an intermediate class, and 10 to 15 beginners, and 5 to 10 in the Pee-wee boxing category. Boxing is the one and only focus in his facility. Yeah, he just focuses on boxing. He said most of the women are interested in the health benefits associated with boxing, as well as self-defense aspects of the sport. Why boxing? Now, a former boxer out of the club, spending 10 years in the ring as an amateur, Jensen has thought a lot about the why of the sport. He has spent the past 3 years coming up with an answer and writing them out. Some of them involve boxing's basic applications to life. The sport's 5 main principles involve footwork, balance, centeredness, timing, and power. All can apply to living a better life. Jensen sees footwork as groundedness that encompasses ability and rootedness. He believes that helps to teach boxers to be stable and firm in decisions in real life, right? And it helps develop reliability and character. Now, in the life application, balance promotes a balanced life, where the boxer learns to manage priorities, emotions, and responsibilities effectively. Now, in a city that has experienced several instances of youth violence and weapons, that's every city, he said the boxing program helps kids who are being bullied, those with low self-esteem or introverted, to build confidence and deal with those issues. He characterizes bullying as a vice that culture has created. He says, when we start working out and these guys start working and learning how, then they start learning the virtues and start seeing they are worthy. Then they get the confidence to start doing things. And one of the things is dealing with the bully when that comes down. Mm-hmm. As coach, he views himself as a mentor to many of the boxers. And he said one of the rules of the club is that boxers keep their aggression in the ring. Okay, a coach's philosophy. Jensen found a Harvard professor on YouTube named Steve Gluck, who differentiates between the art and the sport of the craft, right? Now, the professor even includes the Myers-Briggs personality traits to differentiate between a boxer and a puncher. He also points to the rules of boxing that includes no hitting somebody when they are down, no wrestling, or forcing somebody into submission and fighting from a standing position. It's not about domination, it's about freedom, Jensen said. Now, while other martial arts and wrestling dominate the opponent, boxers, even knocking the other down, do not force submission. Because, when you knock a boxer down and a fighter down in boxing, you got to go to the neutral corner and give them a chance to get up, right? Where MMA, you knock somebody down, you get right there on them and try to force them into submission. See the difference? Boxing is no forced submission. You knock that man down, you got to give him a chance to get up. Okay, so that's a very good point. In boxing, both men walk in there by freedom or free will, he said. You can knock a man out, but he has the free will to get back up and fight. You never take your free will away from you. By contrast, MMA, wrestling, and other martial arts involve going to the mat and forcing submission on an opponent, right? Like I was just talking about. Mm-hmm. We've seen kids come in who are being bullied or whatever, and we work with them. And all of a sudden, you will see, depending on the culture of where they are at, if they have the support, they will do good. Okay? Okay, yeah. There's the airport over there. Coming down on the runway, getting ready to land. Now, boxing as motivator. He said his own life was an example. This is Jensen, the coach at this gym. Boxing became a way to stay out of the alcohol and drugs that were part of his environment growing up. At Casper Boxing Club, the youth participants had to keep a C average in school and avoid any fighting outside the ring if they want to travel to competitions, such as Silver Gloves, Golden Gloves, or USA Boxing. Got to keep a C average, no fighting once you leave that boxing gym. It's not worth it for them to do anything at school. If they want to fight, we have plenty of people they can fight right here in this gym. Great point. You want to fight, just come to the gym. You can fight legally, okay? Now, Casper's gym also participates in the Rock Steady program for Parkinson's patients. And the one we talked about at the other gym, they're also in that program for Parkinson's patients. And there are a handful of participants in their program seeing success. Now, Mellis points out that Wyoming has always been a place where boxing and other fighting sports have done well. Cheyenne, Wyoming hosted the first bare knuckle sanctioned boxing event in the U.S. 6 or 7 years ago. Remember when they started bare knuckles back up? Cheyenne, Wyoming was the first place where it happened at. Okay? Yeah. And the state has also allowed that way of fighting. a Burmese boxing art that allows contestants to use their head. Wow, I wouldn't want to be in that. Man. And Wyoming cowboys on ranches in the late 1800s knew the importance of being able to hold their own with their fists when needed. Mhm. At every ranch, the dumbbells, Indian clubs, boxing gloves, and fencing foils occupy prominent places. Okay, but that's it for that. Let's move on. Okay, but yeah, that was just a little on the importance of boxing and to life. How you can compare. Okay, we're gonna go to the boxers from boxers from Wyoming now. Okay, let's try this tablet again. Boxers from Wyoming. Okay, let me check the chat out. Oh, wow, Booker been in the building. Mike Mazik. Let's see. Yeah, Mike Mazik been in the building too. Let me get back over here. The chat is in good shape. Okay. Next page. Boxers from Wyoming. Only got 2. Right? We're going to talk about Muggsy Scowell. Okay, Muggsy Scowell. It's not really 3:22. I only been on here like 15 or 20 minutes. About 10 minutes, really? No way. No way. It's no 3:22. Tried to sabotage my internet last week. Now somebody messing with my clocks. Probably about 2:30, 2:35 because it started at 2. Okay, boxers from Wyoming. Yeah, he's called the Wyoming Kid, Muggsy Scowell. Oh, don't do this. Muggsy Scowell. Okay, I gotta go back to this phone and kill my eyes again. And I'm gonna throw that tablet away. That thing is worthless. Useless. Here we go. I didn't do too bad on that last article though. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Wyoming history. The Cheyenne Kid, Muggsy Scowell, was a boxing champ in the early 1900s. Yeah, it's not that long. Yeah, Muggsy Scowell. Okay. Now, Wyoming's Muggsy Scowell fought some of the biggest names in professional boxing, including a lightweight champion of the world in 1909. He was also known as the Cheyenne Kid. He was the featherweight champion of the West before he was age 20, and he fought his last fight when he was age 50, okay? 30-year career. Started at 20 and finished his career at age 50. Now, he needed a nose job 2 years into his pro boxing career, but that didn't stop the Cheyenne man from stepping back into the rings across the West. Muggsy Scowell, born Gilbert Scowell on August 11, 1886, he made a name for himself in boxing circles across the nation while stalking opponents in the lighter weight divisions. Like Scowell's last fight at age 50 in 1936, and guess what? His last fight at age 50 was a win. Okay? He won that last fight at 50. Won it. It was a win. According to one account, probably his account. Gilbert Muggsy Scowell was also a great uncle to Kathy McKenzie and her brother Al Scowell, who remember him later in life as a kind man with multi-flower ears, hearing aids, and wire-rimmed glasses. He died in 1966, but Mackenzie keeps the family scrapbook of his life and fights leading up to the golden age of American sports in the 1920s. He fought some great fighters, Mackenzie said. They called my uncle a fighter. He wasn't a boxer, but a fighter. In 1907, he fought Kid Bell for the featherweight championship of the entire West and knocked him out in 10 rounds. In 1909, he went on to fight young Corbett, the former lightweight champion of the world in Cheyenne. He lost in the 16th round of a scheduled 20-round fight. We talked about young Corbett before, remember? Kid Scowell fought him. Mackenzie said it was reported that her great uncle got a little cute and a little overconfident, and Corbett knocked him out. And that was his biggest fight. She said, yeah, young Corbett. That was a pretty big name. Now, referred to sometimes as the Cheyenne Kid or the Wyoming Kid, Scowell was born in Laramie to John Henry Scowell and Agnes Elizabeth Scowell. Mackenzie said Gilbert's father was a pioneer barber in Laramie, but the Scowell name would go on to be associated with Cheyenne and produce a police chief, Secret Service agent, and the boxer. Okay, police chief, Secret Service agent, and a boxer. Several members of the family were featured in a portrait in the May 1st, 1913 edition of the Wyoming Tribune newspaper under the headline, The Scowell Family, a group that speaks volumes for Wyoming. As for Muggsy the fighter, so nicknamed by his trainer for mugging his opponents with his fighting style, he let his devastating short 6-inch punch coming out of a clinch speak for him in the ring. Now, most of his knockout punches didn't travel further than 6 inches. Bob Braun, sports columnist for the Casper Star Tribune, wrote in a tribute to Scowell following his death. Scowell's pro boxing career, according to the website boxrec.com, included 56 fights that featured 25 wins, 20 of them by knockout, and 15 losses, in which he was knocked out 3 times. They had 16 fights that were considered draws in his career, which his career went from 1905 to 1918. Let's see, 25 wins, 20 knockouts. Y'all know I got to know his knockout rate. 80% on the dot. Not bad at all for a man with a 6-inch reach, right? Now, 1905 to 1918. Now, the website did not have a record of his fight at 50 years old in 1936. In an undated Wyoming Tribune story, when Scowell was much older, states that he had 100 professional fights and knocked out 40 opponents, right? Now, there was just one, they said it was one person that said he won that fight at 50. That was probably him. You know, that said that. Okay. Yeah, Muggsy Scowell. Now, as a 41-year-old on December 2nd, 1927, Scowell was interviewed by the Wyoming Eagle about how boxing had changed. Now, he said, this was in 1927, 41 years later he was being interviewed. Still fighting. He had a fight at 59 years later. But he said about boxing changing. He said, there's a lot of money in the fight game these days. The boys don't battle as often. They don't have to, he told the paper. Now, it's 10 and 15 round battles, not the old 20 and 45 round battles we used to have. Because he fought, back before the rounds were limited. Right? Now, Mackenzie says she thought her great uncle had been single all his life and was unaware of the marriage. Yeah, he said he had married on the July 7th, 1908 edition of the Cheyenne Daily Leader reported that Scoel married a Miss Laura Brennan at the home of his brother, Edward. Now, his niece says she thought her great uncle had been single his whole life and unaware of the marriage, right? Al Scoel, his nephew, said he knew his uncle had been married, but knew nothing about his wife. When they knew him, he was single. And he kept fit. Yeah, Muzzy was a fit guy. And he was a police officer and a soldier also. Okay, so let's get to the other boxer from Wyoming. The other boxer is Vic Marker. Told you I only found two of them. Vic Marker. There's Vic. Fighting Archie, that ain't Vic, but Vic fought Archie Moore, so I found a picture of Archie Moore fighting somebody. Now, Vic Marker was born in Scottsbluff, Nebraska, later moved to Casper, Wyoming. Marker was a three-time Midwest Golden Gloves champion from 1937 to 1939 at 147 pounds. Marker, according to those who knew him, was a soft-hearted, generous man. He was one of the best, if not the best boxer in this part of the country. And when he teamed with Terrible Terry Carpenter as his manager, he fought many successful fights. And Marker was Golden Gloves champion in 7 states, according to Leo Bowler. Golden Gloves champion in 7 states. Marker's greatest accomplishment was beating Archie Moore in the Golden Gloves final. Not as a pro, but he beat Archie Moore in the amateurs to win one of those Golden Gloves championships. Golden Gloves champion in 7 states. And he beat the great Archie Moore to become Golden Glove champion in one of them. Yes. Muggsy Scoel. Let's talk about some of these. Let me get my pen. I dropped some of these heavyweights that we got. Not named Ali or Frazier. I got like 2 pens in the floor. Okay. Bear with me for a minute. Oh, yes. No. I don't need this light. Oh, I can't break that. I would be done. My office is on my side of the bed, in a little corner. I had miscast light. I can't break that one. I'd be out of here. Okay, we're going to talk about some great heavyweights now. I think we might have talked this a few months ago, but we're going to talk about it again today. Some heavyweights from the golden era, not Ali Frazier listed. Now, heavyweight boxing in the 1970s was characterized by fierce robberies, great championship fights, and belts changing hands. Now, the decade is thought of as the golden era in the heavyweight division by many boxing historians, experts, and fans alike. Now, Muhammad Ali returned from his forced retirement early in the decade in 1970. Joe Frazier had won the title that had been stripped from Ali when Ali came back. Frazier had the title. Now, former world champions Jimmy Ellis, Floyd Patterson, along with Big George Foreman, Oscar Bonavena, Jerry Quarry, Ernie Shavers, Leon Spinks, Ken Norton, Larry Holmes, Ron Stander, Chuck Webner, Jose Roman, Big John Tate, Jimmy Young, Ron Lau, Joe Bugner, and Scott Liddell are just some of the names that made the 70s such a great decade for the division. The Ali and Frazier's historic trilogy was part of the decade, and no other rivalry in boxing history have come close to topping it before or since. But today we're just going to be able to talk about the heavyweights who fought in the golden era of the 70s, not named Ali, Frazier, or Foreman, because anytime heavyweight and the decade of the 70s are discussed, those are the first 3 names that come to mind. Let's talk about some of the other ones. Okay. I want to do I think it was Chuck Webner first. Let me find Chuck. I got my pictures mixed up. There's Chuck. All right. And there's Chuck. Chuck was a tough guy. There's Chuck and Andre the Giant. Now in a street fight, you know, the rules of street fighting, there's only one rule: win. In a street fight, in that matchup right there, I'm taking Chuck Webner over Andre the Giant. Okay, I'm taking Chuck Webner in that matchup. What y'all think? Chuck Webner versus Andre the Giant in a street fight. My money is on Chuck Webner. Okay. The street fight is only one rule: win. I mean, you can knock them down and kick them in the head, all that kind of stuff. Only one rule on the street is to win. Okay? And Chuck Webner versus Andre the Giant, ain't that much weight differential. Andre the Giant was what, like 7'5", 500 pounds? And that was after Chuck's boxing career. Chuck was like, he over 300. Chuck was like 6'9". Yeah. Yeah. I would take Chuck in that one. Probably beat the brakes off Andre the Giant. But okay. Yeah, first we're gonna talk about Dwayne Barbick. Dwayne Barbick. Oh, there it is. Okay, Dwayne Barbick. Now, Dwayne David Barbick was born August 24th, 1950 in Little Falls, Minnesota. Now, as an amateur, Barbick won the gold medal at the 1971 Pan American Games, and he fought at the 1972 Olympics, right? He lost in those Olympics to the great Teofilo Stevenson. He was never going to get that gold medal with Teofilo in it, right? And that's, I think it was like the second round, something like that, he lost to Teofilo. But Barbick won the gold medal at the Pan Am Games leading into those Olympics, though. And that's probably about the biggest amateur win other than the Olympics is the Pan Am Games. Or maybe the Commonwealth over there in Europe, but you know, Pan Am is a pretty big one for an American. Anyway, you know. And then after the Olympics, he turned pro in 1973. And he retired in 1979 with a record of 48 wins, 42 by knockout, and 4 losses. Right? And he had wins, and all his 4 losses were by knockout, by the way. But 42 knockouts and 48 wins. That's a knockout ratio of 87.5%. That's waste cooler all over everything. Okay. Man. Miss Cass, don't come in here right now. Okay, but yeah. 85% knockout ratio for Dwayne Barbick. And he has some big wins. He scored notable wins over future heavyweight champion Mike Weaver and contenders Chuck Webner, Scott Liddell, Randy Newman, and Manuel Ramos. From 1973 to 1972, Barbick compiled a record of 38. 1973 to 1977, he went 38-0 with 32 knockouts, which made him the number 3 contender in the heavyweight division before he was defeated by the number 1 contender, Ken Norton. Now, after his boxing career ended, Barbick was diagnosed with dementia pugilistica in 1997. His progressive decline has become noteworthy in recent years. After his diagnosis, he was quoted as saying, "I'm not sure I would have gone into boxing back then if I would have known all the effects of head trauma that I know today. But I don't regret the experience, the intense training and discipline I learned from the sport of boxing." Dwayne Barbick. Okay. Joe Bugner. That was another rough customer from England. There he is and out with Ali, Joe Bugner against Muhammad Ali. Okay. Okay, what time is it? Oh, we're gonna get some link time. Let's do Joe Bugner first. Joe Bugner. Bugner was born on March 13th, 1950 in Hungary. Bugner and his family fled to the United Kingdom after the Soviet Union invaded Hungary in 1956. Now, Bugner had a brief amateur career, winning 13 of only 16 fights. He won 13. He turned pro in 1967 at the age of 17. He lost his first fight against Paul Brown by third round TKO, and showing a gritty determination that he became known for after his debut. He won his next 18 fights, including 13 by stoppage. Entering the 70s, Bugner emerged as an outstanding young prospect and was world rated by the end of 1970. He won 9 straight fights that year, including wins over well-known boxers like Chuck Webner, Manuel Ramos, Johnny Prescott, Brian London, Eduardo Coletti, Charlie Polite, and George Johnson. Bugner earned a reputation early in his career as a tough, durable boxer, and he retained that image throughout his career. In March 1971, Bugner won a 15-round decision over British boxer Henry Cooper, which many thought Cooper won the fight, and the fight is regarded as one of the most controversial in British boxing history. Now, the win had Bugner ranked among the world's top 10 heavyweights for the first time. And then in 1973, the 23-year-old Bugner fought Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier back-to-back. Now, he lost 12-round decisions to both men, but he fought well in both fights, earning the respect of the media and the public. Yeah, he went 12 rounds. They were both 12-round fights because they had 12 and 15 back then. Now, he unsuccessfully challenged Ali for the title in 1975 in another fight with Ali, losing a unanimous decision. This one was 15. Now, Bugner retired from boxing in 1976, but he made sporadic returns over the next 2 decades. He retired for the last time in 1999 for final record of 69 wins, 13 losses, 1 draw, 43 knockouts. Now, don't forget tomorrow is the profile is going to be about the Spinks family. We're going to talk about Leon first, the oldest brother, then Michael, and then the second generation Spinks fighter, Corey. You know, Corey and Leon is I didn't want to come up with 4 father sibling champions in boxing. I got Muhammad and later Ali, right? Floyd and Tracy Patterson, Leon and Corey Spinks, and Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. and Jr. Can anybody think of any more? I can't. Them 4 is it. It's all I can come up with. Yeah. Father and the Spinks are one of them. And we're going to cover them tomorrow. And don't forget that show we got coming up Monday. Don't miss Monday. We're going to talk about, the show is called Epic Fights of the 80s, Monday. We're going to talk about a whole show of great fights from the 80s. Just little brief discussions about them. 8 epic fights from the 80s. I ain't going to tell y'all how many. 80 epic fights from the 80s, okay? 80 epic fights from the 80s, Monday. Okay? It might be a 2-parter. Might have to finish up Tuesday. But yeah, that's Monday. 80 epic fights from the 80s. Don't miss that. I know. Yeah, Bobby is definitely a sad story. I'm not going to miss Monday. That's going to be a good show. I ain't missing that one. And if I was y'all, I wouldn't miss it. Okay? People are going to be telling y'all about it all through the next month. Did you see Cash Sports Monday, June the what is Monday? 26th, June 30th? Yeah, Monday, June 30th. They're going to be talking about that for months. Did you see Cash Sports Monday, June 30th, that 80s epic 80s fight show? Wow. Then you're going to have to watch the replay. So why not just be here Monday and see it live? Okay? It's going to be epic. Some great fights from the 80s. All the Four Kings situation, all of that. Larry Holmes and Michael Spinks, the two robberies. Some of those devastating fights Mike Tyson had, those performances he had in the 80s. We're going to cover all of that Monday on Cast Sports, the Box Story, and bringing you all that boxing history. Okay? So don't miss Monday. Set your clock right now for 2 o'clock Monday. Okay? I would. I had already set. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, okay, I'm gonna go to Jimmy Ellis was after Joe Butler. First, I don't know what happened. Oh, here we go. Yeah, Jimmy Ellis was after Joe Butler. Here's Jimmy. Jimmy Ellis. We're talking about some heavyweights from the 70s, not named Ali. Every time I move my hand on his vest, I'm tucking his cool-eyed waist. Damn. Go back to the store and get another one. I hope this kid saying this. What's up, Define? Oh, I gotta bring him up first. I can speak to Define Arnie. I haven't even brought him up yet. There you go. What's up, Define Arnie?
What's up, bro? How you doing today?
I'm doing okay. How about you, my friend? How's your day going?
I'm good, brother. I just got off work, just
Okay.
chilling.
That's a good thing.
Yes, sir, it is. Great show as always, and I don't know. I just, what do you have in mind?
You were saying something. Who was that you was talking about in the chat? Was it you said Dwayne Bobbitt was a sad story?
Yeah, I saw a documentary of him back then, and that he was like, I don't remember everything, obviously, but
yeah,
like he was like pushed to the top without, without having the what it takes,
Yeah,
and
he was kind of like fast track when he got to the pros a little.
That's the word. Yeah, fast track. Yeah. And it's sad because he got too many ass whoopings.
Yeah,
and
right.
that's why he ended up like he ended up.
Mm-hmm. He had that dementia pugilistic look bad.
Yes.
At the
end.
Yeah. Is he still? Remember him?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Okay. Because I kind of lost track of him. Yeah, but I know he was real sick at one time. Yeah.
Yeah. He was one of those dudes that.
Go ahead, finish your thought.
Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead, bro.
No, I'm just gonna say he said that if he knew what boxing entailed, he would have never got into it. Still didn't regret it, but
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's one of these guys that was excellent in various sports as an athlete. I think he was like a football player and maybe something else also. So
yeah, I know he played football. I know he played football. He was great. He was good at football too. The American football.
Yes.
He was from Minnesota. Yeah. But he fought all the big names back then in the 70s, though. He was in there with he had a pretty good amateur career, though. But he lost. He won the Pan Am Games in '72, but he lost to Teofilo Stevenson in the Olympics. He was never going.
I mean, yeah. And Teófilo Stevenson, bro, like that's one of the biggest what ifs ever, right?
I know.
Man, I
I will.
remember I was saying, because you're the one that brought him up to me, and I appreciate you for that. And I was watching
Yeah.
some stuff on Teófilo Stevenson, and bro, I saw George Foreman sitting right there saying, "This guy is the truth, man."
Yeah.
Like, what more validation do you need than that?
Yeah, Foreman was a dress man. And Teofilo would have fought in that golden age of the 70s if he'd have turned pro. He would have been right in that era, man.
Oh yeah,
And that would have made for some great matchups.
it would have been even better than it was. The division.
He didn't want to defect because at the 1972 Olympics, they sent an American promoter. They didn't say a name, but it sounded like Don King. They approached Teofilo and they offered him, I think it was a couple $1 million, and they had his apartment, his living arrangement set up in the States. All he had to do was defect right then, but he said he couldn't do it. They had everything set up for him. Could never go back to Cuba from that Olympics, but he said no. They was trying hard to get him. What's up, Thomas Hill? They was trying hard to get Teofilo, though. Yeah.
What's up, T Hill?
What's good?
I don't know, just another day.
Just chilling, bro.
Teofilo and the stuff right now,
Yeah, would have loved to see how he fared in the pros, man. He was a tremendous amateur boxer for sure.
One time Castro agreed to let him fight Ali in the late 70s, but then the United States, they had offered Cuba so much money, and the United States State Department stepped in and stopped and blocked it. They didn't want them giving them all the millions of dollars. But Castro had actually agreed one time to let him fight Ali. But it still didn't happen.
I mean, to be fair, not to get political here or anything, but to be fair, you know where those millions of dollars are going to end up anyway.
That's why they stepped in and stopped it, yeah. Right.
That's like the first Argentinian boxing world champion. His name is Pascual Perez, and he ended up literally like dirt poor because the government, Peron and all the rest of them, they took everything, bro, like literally.
Yeah.
And
But yesterday, Gio, we were talking about a lot. We talked a lot about that light heavyweight cruiserweight area. With Benavidez, with Maul, Perbiev, Apataya, Zerto,
Balujash, all the rest of them.
Yeah, I was listening to it. I just couldn't comment on it. That's why I was asking you for your. You guys just highlight the conversation, because what you might find interesting might not be what someone else finds interesting. Somebody might key more on this topic, but to me, the availability of a possible fight between Benavidez and my main man Apataya, that would be amazing if they could get up there.
Who'd you pick? You got to pick one.
The only problem that I have with Apataya is that he doesn't always finish strong, and Benavidez does. However, he hits somebody and crack the hell out of their jaw. Like literally, when say I'm gonna crack your jaw, he literally cracked their jaw. And I seen what he did to Nita, and Nita is a fantastic boxer, very crafty. He was able to break him down systematically.
Right.
So I would favor Opataya. Just like I would favor Canelo. I know a lot of people don't favor Canelo in the fight with Benavidez. They think Benavidez is going to be too active.
Yeah.
I just don't think that that's going to work with Canelo unless Canelo is really past his prime.
Yeah.
If he's past his prime, then it might be too much. And it might play out like the Morrell fight. But remember, we were sitting there doing breakdowns and people had Morrell getting washed by Benavidez, and that wasn't the case.
No, it wasn't.
Now he got outclassed. He definitely got outclassed, but he had a chance to win the fight, even though he was being outclassed.
He was good accountant of himself.
Now he's not sharp with his punches like Canelo is. Canelo is sharp with his punches. Now he do some similar stuff that you could take advantage of, But when he's engaged with the fight, he's a different Canelo.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
I would favor him slightly over Benavidez, but I think that he would win, and I know he would win on the cards.
Oh yeah, you know that.
I want to say two things about what you just said, T Hill. First, regarding Opetaya, my personally my problem with Opetaya is that he's not as battle tested as I would like him to be. That's
Mm-hmm.
just me because his toughest opposition was Maris Breedy, and I don't, I think Zurdo has fought a little better opposition, but and in regards to Morel and Benavides, maybe I'm wrong here, but I really didn't see him being outclassed. I just saw that Benavides did a brilliant move by getting this guy this early, because a year from now, I'm not sure that he can mess with Morel. Now, maybe I'm going crazy on Morel, but I've seen that fight so many times, bro. Also, that's one of my favorite fights to watch of modern, of recent. And I just feel like Benavides was way more crafty than he was. But go ahead, please.
Oh no! By all accounts, man, I know you got the casuals corner in the Rolodex. Go cue it up. We just did a show this morning about that. We talked about it. He definitely was doing things that are subtle and nuanced and more craft of the crate from years gone by that that Morel just doesn't have. Also, Morel, he does things with his agility and his ability, but he doesn't do it with purpose. It's no application to it. It's just to look good. See, when you're in the ring and you're there for a purpose, you're showing your class over another person's. Like, so every movement Benavides was doing was for a purpose. Every movement that your boy Morel was doing at times was just for a look. I want to show you that I'm just leaps and bounds more gifted than you are. But you're in there punching on another person for a reason. So when you're doing these things, they should lead to you getting an advantage on your opponent, as opposed to looking better than your opponent. So that's why I say that. And then there's also certain things. But I mean, the fight, when I say outclassed, when Benavides hit him, you might see a little bit of movement going either way from Morel. But when Morel hit him, you could see his whole body shift. But oftentimes those bad boys were being deflected, parried, blocked, caught, and it didn't have the full on effect. Whereas when you seeing Benavides punching, they're bing, 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 and he's pilling guards. He's tapping here, coming with this shot. He's making you think this with those while he's shooting this with his full intent is that. And these are things that I told a member of his corner, because Angel Diaz, aka Jose Diaz, either way he goes by either one, he's in his corner. I told him, like, these are the things you gotta prepare for with Benavides, because this is what he does. It looks ugly, but it's for a reason, and form always follows function. His main function is to do this. So however it looks, this is what it is, but it's doing this. Whereas your function is just really following your form. My form is to look good, and then this is the function of me looking good. He got to get past that. Now, the thing is, he did catch him at the right time. He isn't seasoned. This fight right here will help him see, hey, there's things I got to apply to my game. And it will help the corner see, because I told them, this is what he do. This is what you can expect. If you do not, this is what Morel does. He often does things that doesn't benefit him. You gotta work on that, man, because this dude that he's fighting is a fighter more so than a boxer. He fights, but he actually has the craft of a boxer. But he's a diehard fighter, so he's gonna fight. But he's also got the craft of a boxer. You got a boxer who has all the ability to do anything, but he's using it to just show.
As long as I see another fight between them two eventually.
Well, I mean, if it's another fight later on down the line, it might not bode well for Benavidez. Because if he can add to his craft, you clearly see the more athletic, the more powerful, the more faster fighter was Morrell. Just the one who has the faster mind was Benavidez.
Right.
And that's what I saw in that ring. I saw somebody tagging this dude all day, and it didn't really. It started to at the end slow him down, but for the most part, he was, like I said, I was watching it with people who really didn't give Morrell a chance. And Morrell, for what they were saying, it was going to get ugly and dark real quick. It never did. It just never had a chance for him to win because he wasn't doing what he needed to do. Like Kyron, if he could have fought like Kyron Davis fought against Benavidez, because Benavidez does things where you could take advantage of him, but you got to be quick with it. He is quick with his punches. He just wasn't quick with his reasoning and why I should throw this punch. Kyron was just the embodiment of I'm hitting you, but what I'm hitting you with just can't keep you off. And because it can't keep you off, you're hitting me. And eventually it's going to go bad for me. And they stopped the fight. Kyron didn't stop. They said, look, dog, this is just getting bad. You're taking punches and it ain't, you're hitting them, but it ain't having no effect. And that's what we saw with the Kuroda and Tanaka fight. One dude was hitting back. He just wasn't hitting enough to affect him. And then the effect started looking worse and worse on him, even though he still had fight in him. They had to stop the fight. Because it could get worse.
Yeah.
That never happened with Benavidez. Even, Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
No, go ahead. Talk.
I just wanted to ask because I saw Benavidez pull this move, and I don't know what the name of it is. I think you said it, but I missed it. That move when he uses his jab hand, his left hand to
peel
take away.
Yeah.
Peel the glove. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah. I told him, I was like, yo, he peels this, he taps here to go here. I'm telling him because, like, yo, I see stuff that in the Kologic fight he should have been able to do that he didn't do, and things that Hot Rod should not have been able to do but was doing. Like, that's Hot Rod, dog. That's not Benavidez. So even if he is, and he was more effective in the fight, he's not going to get that decision. But if Benavidez is more effective, they're going to give him the decision because ultimately they're looking to set up the big fight. The big fight not right now is not with Morrell and Canelo. It's with Benavidez and Canelo. It's what people are clamoring for. So if he looks even more active, he looks even more successful, they're going to give him the fight. So you're going to have to avoid all of that by being prepared. That's why I told them, and they told me, we seen all the tapes, we know all the moves, all of that is cannon fodder, it's just show. But when you see in the ring, it wasn't show, it was effective, and it was for a reason, and it could have been avoided. Like bottom line, if I'm coming to you, Cass, and I'm fighting you, I'm just from what you know, and this was early on in the fight, I take one of my hands and grab your hand and pull it down and then hit you, then do it again, hit you, then do it again, hit you in that succession, in that sequence. How many times is that going to happen again in a fight?
You asking me?
Yeah, how many times are you going to allow me to do that same thing in the fight?
Yeah.
I'm trying to never to allow you to do it again.
Yeah, you feel me? Because you're styling on me now. Not only are you, because I take that as disrespect. You're not about to pull my hand down just so you can hit me. My hand is there so that you can't hit me. And if I let you do that, that's on me. But if you do it again, I mean, if I let you do that the first time, that's on you. That was your good. But if I let you do that again, then that's on me. Because I should have adjusted to that. I told him before the fight even happened that was what he was going to do. And in the second round, boom, it happened 3 times in succession. Then in the third round, it happened again. In the fourth round, it happened again. Fifth round, happened again. Happened again. And then as
no answer for that, bro. No answer whatsoever for that.
And then there's the tapping up top, but immediately firing to the body. I'm occupying you here. I told him that's what he do. Like, I let him know exactly what Benavidez does. There's times where Benavidez is going to stand right in front of you because he's trying to figure out what's available on you. You got to punch him. That's what Kyron Davis was doing. Kyron Davis was popping his ass. Every time he made a mistake, pop. pop. It just was like a gnat flying in your face. It wasn't having no impact on Benavidez. But when I'm hitting you, you're having an impact. That didn't happen in that Benavidez Morrell fight because of the special talent that Morrell is.
Mm-hmm.
But most people
But
would
in
have
the
got out.
fourth round,
Go ahead.
but just real quick, I'm sorry. I think it was either the fourth or the fifth round. Morrell caught him coming in with a check hook, bro, that wobbled Benavidez, bro.
For sure. For sure.
And,
For
and I
sure.
was like, man, if this guy gets just a little, or maybe not a little, maybe a lot more polish and everything, he can really, put it on him.
But in that same moment, he finished even that moment. Benavidez still styled on or outclassed him because he said, you know what, they're not going to remember that moment. Let me put together punches. Let me hit him with some stuff. See, Morrell could have took that moment and worked that body and then eventually came back to the top. But no, Benavidez like, nah, I can't let that moment be the last thing that you mean. Now, people who saw the fight know that he got stunned, but you saw also how he rebounded and not let that really become a moment.
Oh yeah.
So that was class. That's what I'm saying. He was outclassed in that fight, man. And for him to stand up, most people don't stand up to that ish. Most people break down to that stuff. So that's a testament to him, his ability, his durability. But he got to add seasoning to his craft, man, because if he does, he'll be dangerous, extremely dangerous, because he has all the tools.
What's up, Ant?
Absolutely. I agree. What's up, Ant McQueen?
Yeah, that man is just not thinking on that level, man. And you go back and you watch prior fights, and it's more the same thing. Where you can just walk up to a guy and punch him, and he can't withstand your power. And that happens several fights in a row. Then you get to a point where you step up in class like he did, and he looked out of his depths. There was a moment where he was along the ropes. He goes orthodox for no reason, and then just like literally just walks into a damn left hook. Like, why are you doing that? The decision making. Then there's other things that he does. I think he misuses his athleticism quite a few times where you'll see him change levels, then he'll come back up, then he'll fire the punch. By the time you come back up, the guy already knows you're going to throw the punch. Now he can evade it. But if you were to stay low and fire high, or stay low and stab to the body, or get low and then just explode from that position, now you're doing something with it. But to change levels, pop back up, then throw the punch, you're going to see that coming from a mile away. Another thing, too, is just the lack of versatility defensively. He fights out of the high guard. It's ridiculously static. Almost like Joe Joyce level static. Like, it doesn't move. He doesn't catch punches. Yeah, he just absorbs shots. He doesn't necessarily block shots or catch shots. He just absorbs them. And then that's how David Benavidez was able to pale his guard in succession like that. Because he doesn't move the guard. And then the other thing, too, is, once again, just going back to understanding of convention. He's athletic, but you don't really see him use his legs to set traps. The closest thing that he got to it was when he threw that check hook that Defiant Irony was referencing in the fourth round. But outside of that, he's not a guy that's going to stand there right in front of you, make you commit to something, take a half step back, and drill you with a shot. That's just not him. He comes forward, he's athletic, and he's strong. Actually, I believe that the reputation that David Benavidez has cultivated over the past couple of years is actually more fitting for Morrell in terms of application and execution. David Benavidez is much more of a thinking man's fighter than David Morrell is. But he moves like Baby Huey. You know what I'm saying? Like, he plods forward. He kind of moves like RoboCop Frankenstein or whatever. But between the ears, he's got what counts, which is acuity. Like, the man is just sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
he was talking about business.
And I mean, that's what was the separator in that fight, man, for sure. And I mean, like I say, it's just a testament that he was able to withstand some of the stuff that Benavidez usually get people up out of there or break them down to the point where the ref got to stop it.
Right.
But not with Morrell, because Morrell is just that special of a specimen. But what he got to do is, like you said, add nuance to his craft. You got to add just not application, but the effectiveness of the application. Like, why is it? Why am I doing this? What is this for? If I'm giving them this look, it's to do this so I can get this opportunity. Not just to look good, man. You can't be out there just stunting. You don't play boxing. When they say you don't play boxing, you don't go out there styling on folks unless you styling for a reason. See, pulling that guard, that's a style.
Yeah.
But when he peels it, it's because I'm trying to get it. And then if I peel it enough, hopefully I'm making you think that, okay, if I touch this glove, I'm coming with this punch, and then I'm gonna switch it up. Like he said, a thinking man, acuity. He's just in there, he's just thinking. Like the clock is like on Rolex.
Mm-hmm.
With him, that automatic movement is just ticking, tick, 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 tick. Ain't no. Okay, let me think about this. And even in the moments where when he's not even throwing punches, he's still looking to see what I'm gonna do. But that's when he gotta be held accountable. You gotta hold him accountable, because if you let him do you let him get a steam, like Ant always say, that engine get out that locomotive get out of that stall, dog. It's not much you could do to stop the runaway train. You gotta keep that bad boy before he get out.
Mm-hmm.
The gun get out the holster, it can do a lot of damage. But if it's in a holster, only one that really can damage is you.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys something. I hear everything you guys are saying, and I definitely respect everything you guys are saying. And with all this being said about Morrell just looking good and styling for basically no reason other than aesthetic and everything else, right? This loss that he took with Benavidez, could this be like a blessing in disguise for him? Because it's like, okay, it's like welcome to the big leagues type moment. Okay, this is what they do, this is how crafty they are, this is the boxing IQ, so now I need to adjust to this. Could this be a blessing in disguise for him as far as growing up as a fighter, and becoming that and becoming what I think he could become, which is a superstar? Do you guys think, because sometimes you got to get your ass beat to just to get better? I've seen that many times. Like sometimes you need that wake up call, or that, because Morrell, to me, in the build up of that fight, he was feeling himself way too much for my liking, because I know who he had in front of him, and I feel like with all the laughing he did and this and that, and you can see Benavidez was all business, and I was like, man, something feels off here. And do you think that you need sometimes that dose of humility, so to speak, to be able to grow up as a fighter and not just take your opponents for granted, so to speak, because you've been having all this success, or maybe not?
Go ahead. Who's gonna take that one?
Hello?
I would
I
say yes.
I'll take the
thought
bait.
Ant was gonna take it. I was gonna follow him.
I think it's possible. That's the one thing, is like we don't know David Morrell personally. We just know what we see from him as a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said before, it can be very difficult to be expansive when everything that you've done has worked. If you're out there knocking guys out with a single shot without having to work for it, without having to think for it, it can become easy to just fall into the pattern of just boom. All I got to do is step in the ring and just hit you. I think there's something to be said for getting quality work. We were talking earlier, and Angelo had mentioned David Benavidez sparring with the guys like Triple G and Kelly Pavlik.
Yeah.
He's also sparred with Alexander Vosnik,
Mm-hmm.
Bivol at a very
Yeah.
young age. So he was able to pick up a lot of nuance and become savvy. And with David Morrell, I mean, just look at them. Like T Hill just mentioned a couple minutes ago, the man is an absolute specimen. Like he's so damn talented. I could only imagine how hard
Yeah,
he had to work. And what I'm saying is, I'm saying like he probably hasn't had to work too hard. Yeah, he's working hard. He's a boxer, but I mean relative to his contemporaries,
Mm-hmm.
probably hasn't had to work but so hard up until this point. So just being him was always enough. He was born, David Benavidez was built, and now it's time for David Morrell to build himself because he's got a hell of a foundation to work with. He's got a lot of things that you can't teach, you can't buy. You know, power and speed. He's robust. He's durable, like T Hill said, because he got his ass whooped. I'm gonna just keep it real. He got his ass whooped, but he was able to sustain. He was able to stay on his feet, and then even when he got phased out in the fight mentally, because there were a couple of moments where he was getting hit with several shots at a time with no answer,
yeah,
but he was just physically sturdy enough to withstand. I hope that's the case, that he comes back and we're going to see him, what, July 12th versus Imam Katayev. I hope that we see some added layers to him. I hope that we see him make better usage of his athleticism, primarily his feet. But there are a couple of things that just need to be fine tuned. And I can understand Ronnie Shields from a coach's standpoint not wanting to tamper too much. Like I heard Ray Arcel talk about that. Like if you got a guy that's like a natural, like a Roberto Duran, you don't really want to mess with that too much. You just want to focus more on tactic than technique. You don't want to change the guy into a completely different fighter. Just give him a better understanding of how to use what he has.
Mm-hmm.
But the
yeah,
thing is with David Morrell, much like our friend Floyd Schofield, another athletic fighter, both of those guys don't seem to do a really good job of regulating their athleticism. You know, I use the
Mm.
analogy of like a new driver. A new driver, everything is heavy. You know what I'm saying? They're heavy on the foot. When they step on the gas, they giving the car too much gas. When they hitting the brake, it's not a smooth. You're not coming to a smooth stop. You're coming to a halt. It's abrupt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's herky jerky. It's
yeah,
rough. It's rough. It's abrupt. Like that's David Morrell. So if he gets a better handle on that stuff, like with his technique, you see when he throws his left hand, that left hand is dynamite. That shit is powerful as hell. But the problem is his feet. He doesn't turn the shot over through the hip. So he's falling in with the shot with all that weight behind it. And it's a heavy ass left hand. But the problem is he can find himself walking in the shots. And then he also doesn't close the distance very well. Because all of his steps are big, heavy steps, plodding steps. They're not small, accurate, precise steps.
Yeah.
So I think that's the one thing that I would be looking at if I'm David Morrell. It's like, okay, how can I improve incrementally? You don't need to change overnight and then become this brand new fighter, but just yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, you can. But okay, I got you. I said yes, Mozzie. Yeah, but I'm talking right now. I got you. Yeah, so just work on those small things. That's really what it is with David Morrell, and then just finding different ways to be more thoughtful, to be more tactful. Like T Hill was talking about with David Benavidez. One thing that he's fantastic at, T Hill alluded to this, is deception. Like I'm gonna touch you on the elbow, but my real intention is to hit you with an uppercut between the guard. That man does not do any of that. David Morrell is just straight hard punches. No deception. He doesn't change the speed, doesn't change the
he can be
cadence.
predictable basically.
Extremely predictable. Extremely. Extremely. And then just defensively. Defensively. And you see this with a lot of guys nowadays. It's not just him, but you see this with a lot of guys. Guys go into that high guard and act as though it's a cure-all. Like, yeah, the high guard is good to be able to absorb some punches. So you're not taking punches flush, but you're still taking punches ultimately because it has its vacancies. If you bring the high guard in too close and your arms are touching, then guess what? Now you got vacancies around the guard. You can get hit around the ear, around the side of the jaw. so on and so forth. But then if the high guard is a little bit more standard or conventional, now you have the vacancies, like right there in the middle. You can be stabbed to the gut. Like it's a good defense to use when you're trying to close the distance to land a shot of your own. But by the same token, it's not the best defense to use exclusively. And for David Morrell, it's almost exclusively. So hopefully they look at the
Yeah.
past couple of fights, not just the David Benavidez fight, but just see like, okay, how the hell was this David Benavidez, the outcome, the result of this fight, even possible in the first place? Like, okay, we've been doing these things, but we just hadn't faced anybody with the savvy to exploit him. And that's what he did. He finally ran into no, they didn't. I wouldn't have got you that moment. He finally did. He ran into somebody who was savvy enough and also understands, because David Benavidez himself is a practitioner of the high guard. So,
Yeah.
to answer your question, I do believe that David Morrell can grow from this fight, and it's just gonna just require just a simple getting back to the basics, not doing anything advanced. I think being too advanced is probably part of what had him trending in this direction in the first place. Because if it wasn't David Benavidez, it was going to be somebody else at 175. Like, it was bound to happen just based on
Yes, I agree.
his mode of operation. But he is a very, very, very talented guy, for sure.
I'm
shout out
very
to
high on David Morrell. Still am, actually. I don't hold that loss against him too much or anything, but I just think that he's been a little bit of a prisoner of his own success, because in that build up, bro, he was, and I understand that it's part of promotion and whatever, but when he started mocking like the RoboCop stuff with Benavides and stuff, I don't know, like that to me showed a tad bit of like immaturity maybe on his behalf, and that may be expected, but uh, nah, I agree. Let's see with Kataev, and we'll go from there.
so to add to what Ant said, because Ant so eloquently stated everything. I mean, it's hard to cover anything else. But I will highlight what he said though, man. First and foremost, the work in the ring, the sparring, upgrade that. You looking at him who he's sparring schools of boxing. So he's getting what people from different areas and different boxing genres are getting, and he's understanding what they're doing and why they're doing it. I'm pretty sure he's asking after the spar, or even maybe during the small conversations, like, yo, why you do that, like stuff like that. Because that's what Kobe. If you look at Kobe always did that when he would get with people and practice with them and play with them and things like that. He would ask them like, "Yo, I noticed that when you're doing this, you're not having problems with it. Like, what are you looking for? What are you cueing off of?" And sparring helps you cue off certain things, especially when you get to see various different styles. And he sparred some of the best of styles. Getting Triple G, you getting that style. You know what I'm saying? Vosdick, you're getting that style.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Pavlik, you're getting this style. So you're adding to your understanding, your comprehension of like what boxing can offer to you and what it offers to its opponent. Also, I think that, like you said as well too, man, you can't come in there. It's a difference between being confident and being cocky. I think he was cocky. It's been easy for him because of like the specimen that said he was. Like, he's a tremendous specimen. He was born special with talents and abilities that most people don't have. He ain't had to work on very much because what he's been using has been working very well. But there's gonna be some times where what you're doing, you might not even be at your best. It might not even be that person. You're not feeling well, and you gotta lean on something to get you through. You got to have something in the reserve. You got to have something in the contingency that's actually going to be able to work if what you normally do don't work. And then there's the thing that the term hopeful. I'm hopeful too, because like The thing is, like, you can't just look at the fights that went wrong, because it's good to look at the fight what went wrong, but you got to look at the fights before, like Ant said, and you got to look at all the things that may have been problematic. But he said this. Now I'm gonna juxtapose it. There was a fight that happened, and the outcome was starkly different than what many people believed. One person got knocked around the ring all throughout the fight, still able to finish the ring, but didn't look good in finishing the ring. And when it later came out that there was something that may have been enhancing that performance, they went to blaming that. My man, after that fight, he immediately said, yo, man, tremendous respect and props to Benavidez, because in this night, he was truly the better man.
Mhm.
I have nothing but respect and admiration for the performance he put on, recognizing that it wasn't anything other than him just being good and very good on that night, and me not being able to accommodate the things that he was doing to or attenuate them so that I could actually get the better hand of that. So he recognizing that something he was doing was far superior to something that I was doing, and that's why he was able to come away with the victory. He has people in his corner who talk to him and tell him things. Maybe that will cause him with this humbling of sorts to say, look, yo, I might need to see things a little bit different and listen to what people got to say. Because I'm pretty sure Ronnie is telling him things, and more times than not, maybe it's just not resonating with him. But when you go through a fight like that, man, things start to resonate a little bit more. Because like you said, man, the Pistons used to whoop on the Bulls. They got humbled. And then they said, yo, something's not right. We got to figure out what the fudge is going on, man, because I don't like this feeling.
So we got to go back to the what's the name part, though, T Hill. We got to go back to the talent part. And you said something I thought was very important, too, as far as like the quality of work and the variety of work. Because you can only imagine that, you know, fighters become a composite of the fighters that they work with. So if you work with Triple G, that's a guy that got a strong jab, good work rate. But he's also got talent in cutting off the ring. Kelly Pavlik is a guy that had like a strong right hand. You in there working with Vosdick and Bivol. Those are guys who have a good sense of range and distance. So then you seeing all of these things come together in one fighter. And then just to go back to the whole talent standpoint, this is a guy that really had to work. Why? Because he was a fat kid. He was 13 years old, 300 plus pounds. You know what I'm saying? So he really had to work for it. He really had to work for this. So I can only imagine not only the amount of work, but the quality of work that he had to put in to get himself to this point versus the other guy where he could probably roll out of bed with a six-pack. David Morrell is like an action figure, man.
Yeah, man. I love what you said. You said that Benavidez was built, Morrell was born. Now, that's
and
so true, man.
Define irony. I think you also made a great point too. Yeah, there's gamesmanship and there's banter and there's selling the fight, promotion and things of that sort. You gotta make it spicy. But I also do believe, to your point, that he fell victim to his own misunderstanding of what it is that he had in front of him. I think that he vastly underrated David Benavidez for sure. Because you got to think, listen, I'm the talented guy, I'm the athlete, I'm the specimen. This is the former fat kid. This is RoboCop.
Yeah, exactly.
And to that point, man, not just him, but their entire his handlers too. I'm not gonna say Shields, because I heard Shields speaking, and I heard Shields say, "Nah, Benavidez has a lot to offer." I just know that we have a fighter that's got a lot of ability and has a lot of gifts, and if he can use them correctly, he can be a problem. Unfortunately, we just didn't get him to use them correctly. But there were other people was talking about like, nah, it's all show and tell and Frankenstein and this. And I'm like, man, are you sure you're watching this?
Right?
Not just him, but all his other people too that handled him too. It wasn't just him. They were all, when they got the mic, they were saying this type stuff. They're saying, and you
Yeah.
know, like I said, man, like Ant was saying and chronicling with what you said. There's a thing as banter and selling a fight. There's also a thing as confidence, false confidence, cockiness, and being extremely aware of what you can do. When you looked at the press conference, you saw Benavidez extremely aware and confident of what he had. You saw the other one just being cocky, messing around. In that
Yeah.
ring, you don't mess around. There's business in that ring. And if you don't meet the business standards, the standards meet you.
That's right.
Oh yeah. That's a
I
fact.
think Benavidez also had to grow up overnight in a sense. Because I definitely agree with you as far as the Kyron Davis fight goes, T Hill. Kyron Davis was able to have some success, and he definitely was ahead of David Benavidez at that moment in time, as far as learning curve goes, professionally. But then from that fight on, because we watched the Dennis Duggan fight, I can't tell you how many times, and I was like, oh my lord, he's terrible. But then each fight, he got progressively better. He got progressively better. He had that moment late in the fight versus Ronald Gravel. He got dropped with the jab, the little flash knockdown, and then you go see the rematch, and he boxed beautifully from the outside, and he worked his jab. I was like, okay, this is a guy
Yeah.
who's not only learning on the job, but he's actually applying what he's learning. And then you got to think about the guys that he's had to track down since then, between Darrell and Plant and Andre. Those are guys that are astute boxing minds. You know what I'm saying? Those guys are very high IQ level fighters. And then not only that, but they also have athletic gifts. Like Plant can move like nobody's business. Demetrius Andre's footwork is off the charts. As a matter of fact, I had my reservations going into that fight because I thought there was a possibility that David Benavidez could end up like Walter Katangagwa. I love the way that Boo Boo was able to manipulate him mid range with his feet. Where like Walter take that hard step in and then he would like pivot and position himself outside him and throw overhands. I was like, man, this is next level footwork. And then there were a couple of times where he tried that move on David Benavidez, but David Benavidez was prepared for it. He shifted him, got outside of him, threw the overhand. This guy ducked underneath and pivoted out. I said, holy shit, we got ourselves a fight here. Because I just didn't expect that type of growth from David Benavidez. And then you just see just like how handsy he is, how meticulous he is about the way in which he goes about his work. I think that a lot of people got him confused, and I was one of those people. Once upon a time, that he was just this come forward bulldozer type of guy, but nah, he comes forward, but he comes forward with technique. He comes forward being measured, and he comes forward being deliberate about the way in which he works. I can't remember the last time I seen a guy that throws with such a high value, but be as economical as he is. Because a lot of times we use the word economical where we should be using the word conservative, and the two aren't necessarily the same. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
David Benavidez is not out there low output trying to make the most of every punch like a Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez is conservative, throwing 30 punches around or something like that. But the handful that he does throw, oh, them bad boys gonna have some steam on them. You're gonna feel that left hook to your gut. You're gonna feel that right hand when he does land it. And it's gonna be a serious shot. He's not out there just trying to score points. But David Benavidez is one of those guys where he's always looking for an opening. Always looking for an opening. So to circle it back to David Morrell, I hope if anything, he gleaned from that experience. He gleaned from that experience. Like these are some of the things that he did to me, and then I can use these things and move forward with it. Add some of these things to your repertoire. I mean, this is boxing. There's nothing new under the sun, right? So who better to learn from than your opponent? And you shouldn't even be looking at it in terms of like wins or losses because all of the guys in the Hall of Fame, with a handful, with the exception of a handful, how many guys are undefeated in the Hall of Fame? Who like maybe Rocky Marciano, Floyd Mayweather, Joe Calzaghe, Andre Ward. That's a very short list, bro.
And Ricardo Lopez. That's
Yeah.
that's the five I know about.
That's
And
the
Ricardo Lopez.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
51.
Bro, that's
Lopez.
five. That's five.
Yeah, literally five people. That's it.
It's five. You know what I'm saying? All the rest of these people, they took losses. So David Morrell, I say find a way to just get a little bit more refined. It doesn't have to be overnight, but just a little bit at a time. Can I eat first, Mozzie?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, and something that I forgot to mention, and I'm glad you brought it up, is the fact that Benavides, whatever people feel about him, I mean, I don't mind them certainly, but one thing that I have to give is looks better and better and better and better, and that to me is the because not everyone, you don't see a lot of guys improving like that fight to fight, like in my opinion. And
Self
that
awareness.
to me is the best guy at the moment.
Self awareness, man. I mean, of all fighters, he's one of the ones that's keen on self awareness, recognizing who he is
Mhm.
and where his strengths and weaknesses are. And if a fight bear it out, if a spar session bear it out, well, we got to work it out. Like, remember before the Boo Boo fight, they was talking about how his feet were lumbering. What did he do? He got in there with, what was it, Rigo? Was it Rigo that was teaching him? Who was it that was teaching
Yeah, it
him?
was Guillermo Rigondeaux. He went down there and worked on his footwork with Rigo. And then that's the other thing too. Like, he was straight up and
Wow.
down. He was straight up and down. And then you see in the Boo Boo fight now, he's crouching and changing levels and shit. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
Because he used to be RoboCop. That's how he used to fight. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you watch his fights versus like Porky Medina and
Rogelio Medina. Yeah, I remember that one.
yeah,
And
when he
even Jay Leon
unleashed that
Love.
crazy
Even
combo.
Jay Leon Love, I would say.
Jalen Love, even against David Lemieux, like
Yeah, Lemieux. Yeah.
Yeah.
he had no wiggle to his game. He was just like very rigid. But to T Hill's point, when there was a lot of chatter about how his feet would be to his detriment, and I was one of the people who was subscribing to it, he completely just locked in, man. Locked in with Rigo, worked on his footwork, worked on changing levels, worked on his head movement, like swimming underneath and things. And I was like, man, this guy's dedicated.
And absolutely, man. And it goes back to that great old adage: if you had a superpower, what would you rather it be? And everybody often chooses a superpower that's offensive, but never one that's cerebral. His greatest superpower is to recognize that, hey, I'm human and I'm subject to error. But if I find this error, let me make it less of an error so that I'm no longer error prone with it. But you might still think that. And if you think that, that's better for me. I mean, the dude is a working art. He's like a progress. And going back to what Ant said about acquiring different, like, various variations in boxing and skill sets that you're sparring with, it's like the artist, man. You work with these people. Like, I remember going through art class that was talking about how all these great painters work with other great painters, and they took what they did well, and then they thought, oh, well, maybe like we could add this. And then you can see the succession of how the art looked as each master went forward, and then their students, their pupils, or the people that were underneath them, and they progressed to what we see. And that's one thing that he takes. He's like a canvas. He takes it. This is what I am. What can we make of me? And you gotta respect it, bro, because like it's unheard of for most people to say, hey, look, I'm deficient here. Let me work on this. Most people, they don't do that. And we had a fight, like I said, where people won't recognize the fact that the reason why a fight was actually changed was not because somebody fought a fight that they weren't supposed to, but they were fighting their fight that they were supposed to. And then the person changed for that fight, and they finally tapped in on the timing, and the punch beat the timing of the jab. And that changed the whole perspective of the fight. But if you go in there saying, nah, it was this, it was that, you forget the fact that, oh, I do this often, and he took advantage of that. I do this often, and he took advantage of that. And he's used to me doing this with my jab. He took advantage of that. So like we lose sight of things when we don't do that, and we just try to say, well, it wasn't me. And Benavidez is somebody that always constantly recognized that, hey, yo, I'm human. I could always get better. I could always work harder. I can always tune up. I fine tune, and he's been doing that. I think that hopefully my man from this fight, because like the pre-fight to the actual post-fight, it was a whole change in demeanor. My man recognized that, yo, dog, this dude is better than that, and better than what I thought. And on top of that, he's gotten a lot better from what, I probably thought he was. And then there is this. When you get humbled, sometimes that's what it takes. Like you said, sometimes it takes that humbling for you to fully open up your eyes and see maybe what I was thinking. I was sipping that Kool-Aid, or I was looking through them stained glass eye lenses, and things look sweet, but they really wasn't that sweet that I.
Oh, damn. Oh, define. Everybody dropped. Everybody still there?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. T Hill just went off all of a sudden. Oh, T Hill just defined already dropped off. You still there, T Hill?
It's like somebody pulled the plug out of T Hill.
Yeah, he just stopped all of a sudden. I was enjoying that. Damn. T Hill. Yeah, T Hill stopped, but defined already dropped off. Wow. That was strange. Yeah, I was in Just News chat. What else you got, Ant? We're gonna get ready to get on up out of here then. That was
Not much. I was just enjoying the show. I had no idea so much was going on in Wyoming.
Yeah, I was surprised too. When I was looking at it the other, I was like, wow, a lot of old stuff, man. Yeah, Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday met through a fighter, through a boxer. Was the one that introduced them. That was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
What you think?
But that's not one of those places that's synonymous with boxing at all. No. You think boxing, you think East Coast and Midwest for the most part.
Yeah, that's like ranching company, cowboys and cattle, stuff like that. I can only find 2 former boxers though from Wyoming. Yeah, just 2 of them. They were way back in the old days. What's in that Jake Paul card Saturday?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Any other big names in the ring this weekend?
Yeah, Zotto Ramirez is going to be on that Jake Paul card.
Yeah, he's on that card. Yeah. Okay.
He's fighting Juniel Dorticos, the dude from Cuba.
We was talking about yesterday, him and Apataya. Who would you favor in that fight? Zotto and Apataya.
That one is a tough one, man.
Yeah, it is.
That's a very tough one.
Yeah.
Because I must say, I think that Zotto, I don't think he's probably half the athlete that Jaya Pattaya is. That guy he's another one of them guys, like a tremendous athlete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Strong and explosive. But Zotto, he's been improving. I like his fight against Chris Billum-Smith. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed, the footwork, the angles.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely has improved a whole lot.
A whole lot.
Since he fought Bivol, remember? At light heavyweight. So maybe they get that together. We'll see. Yeah, but I was in Just News chat. He was talking about Turkey Alley Sheik in that situation. Ant dropped out. Okay, so yeah. Oh, that was a nice fire panel with Ant McQueen, Thomas Hill, and Define Arnie 1. Yeah, let's get ready to get out anyway to find anyone. I appreciate you. We'll do it again the next time. But appreciate you, Al Booger. Great. I'm gonna drop my cash app tomorrow, Al Booger. I'm gonna need your address. So yeah, we'll get it together tomorrow. Okay. But everybody have a great evening. Yeah, great conversation. I was listening to Just Do and listening to Ant and Thomas Hill and Define Arnie at the same time. Okay, but everybody have a great evening. I appreciate y'all 1,000% for stopping through. Tomorrow is the Spinks boxing family for the profile. We're going to talk about Leon, Michael, and then the second generation, Corey Spinks, also a world champion. He was down around junior welterweight, down around that range. Had a couple I think he fought Zab twice. I know Zab went out there to St. Louis and beat him one time, but I think they had fought before that. But yeah, we're gonna find out tomorrow. The Spinks boxing family. Okay? So everybody have a great afternoon. But if it's Monday through Friday at 2 p.m., it's the Box Historian bringing you all that boxing history. Everybody have a great afternoon. Just Do Boxing has been in progress for about an hour now. I'm out.